Good morning and welcome. You are with the Skeinz Diaries. I am Marie here on Monday, the 9th of October. And as you can see, I'm in my sweater because it's cold. It's really, really chilly here. We've had spring weather. Doesn't seem to know what it's doing. Welcome along to episode 283. I hope everyone is doing well this week. I have got lots of Ratio Poncho knit along sort of updates. It's really relaxed and easy going. I'll let everyone get in. If you've got any questions about the knit along, we can do that today. Also, if you've got any questions about anything, I'm sort of in a freewheeling sort of a mood today. But yes, I was just literally just came in. Someone was picking up a sweater stone, and I was able to show them how to do it on this. This, of course, is oatmeal by Truly Myrtle. This is my very first oatmeal. And actually, I can tell you a little secret about this oatmeal. So I knitted it, and I knitted it in the original yarn that it was designed in, which was the Heritage Alpaca Merino, which we had way back when. It was in the old store. And initially when I knit it, it was actually a wee bit bigger than this, and it found its way by accident in a mistake of Spousing's washing garments, and anyway it ended up in the washing machine. Fortunately for me, that the cycle it went through on was a very, very gentle cycle, so there's actually, it didn't fully felt, but it did shrink a little bit when it went through, because it's not a machine washable yarn, but thank goodness for very gentle front loading machines. But funnily enough, I had so much positive ease in it the first time round, it actually fit better now than what it did before it went into the machine. I know, crazy. But I just love it. It is just on a day like today, where you're feeling it, absolutely feeling it. I don't mind this big wide neck. Some people don't like it. If you did the neck and shoulders class at Knit August Nights, I think this was one of the ones that Libby talked about, that you could change the neckline. But while I've got it on, you can actually quite easily increase this neckline and do it very chikerish, and just carry on this decreasing here, and actually just keep going in and just do a lovely big thick band around the neckline here. So you can actually do that too. I love this. I really do love this jumper, and I love it for many reasons. One, I love it for the shoulder fit. As you can see there, the shoulder fit is fantastic. It doesn't slip off. It feels really firm and good across the shoulders. And the other thing it has too is, I just lead up here, you can just see it there. It's got a little bit of waist shaping in there. Not a huge amount of waist shaping, but just enough that it just, even when you're a big cuddly girl like me, it just gives you a little bit extra shape. So I have to say, I am rather fond. I am quite fond of the oatmeal. So I've done 2 of these actually. I should really do another repeat offender and do a third, because it is one that I do wear. Oh, there we go. Sabrina's just saying snap. She's knitting oatmeal number 3 at the moment. Yeah, it's actually one that I should do again. And I wouldn't mind actually doing this, the double stranded treatment for the bit of fluff, because I love that so much with the love note that I've just finished, that actually doing the fabric you get with the Whisper Fine and a full ply yarn, especially if it's something with a little bit more rustic love in it. So could you imagine one of the sports like Southlander Sports or Highlander Heather Sports with the mohair? I mean, I think that will be, it will be quite nice. It will be quite nice. So add it to the queue. I know, all the things in the queue. Right, ponchos. Jeanette, stop it. If you're in the speakeasy and you haven't seen it, Jeanette has finished her ratio poncho. And as she has found out, and many of you are finding out, it is a really easy, relaxed knit. And it's designed to be that way. It is designed that it is a Marie design. It is designed by Chardonnay. It is a design that you can sit there and audiobook or YouTube or Netflix your way into poncho happiness. That is what it is designed for. And many of you are discovering how, once you actually, as you can see the basic template of it, which is really straightforward. you can really now start playing around with colour and letting your imagination go wild. What I am loving is how many of you have gone stash diving. This is brilliant because it's just so good to use up all those weird and wonderful things in your stash. I mean, so many of my ponchos have been derived from stash diving. I mean, this is the classic case in point. This is one that I upsized, but all of these yarns have come from stash. Some of them are trial yarns, there's all sorts in here. So you're only limited by your imagination. And that's what I love. And Jeanette too has shown how you can actually, she's done a lovely big, she's actually done what I have done pretty much here. She's done a big lot of color blocking of stripes here and then moved over to a plain shade here. She did Stornoway for her shade here, which just looked fabulous, allowed the striping to absolutely pop. And then she striped her collar as well. You have to go to the speakeasy to check it out. It really does look good. Now, before I show you my progress, I've gone and pulled some yarns out because I know many of us are using stash yarns, but if you're in a place that you've got some stash yarns and they're at the slightly heavier end of the spectrum, most of us are using DKs, but you don't have to, okay? And as I lean over, since it's sitting at the end of the table, I actually could have put the wall double layered. This one here, which is the one that I did for Knit August Nights. This poncho here has 3 different weights in it. It has DK, it has 10 ply, and it has 12 ply. And there is the collar there, which is the 12 ply. And this is actually the fantasy yarn that we have. So this was the precursor. This was actually the trial yarn that was made when we first were broaching to do this yarn for the client that we originally made it for, and that was just the color that they happened to have floating. I think this is actually our La Rosa, and they just threw it in with our La Rosa Perendale, and that's how it came out. So obviously I had a few balls of that stash, of the sample yarn. And that's why I wanted to pull out the fantasy, because this poncho is knitted on a 6mm needle. You can do multiple weights in the poncho. So as I said, there's 3 weights in that. But if you're actually jumping around in your stash and you're finding that you actually have some bulky weight or some of those heavier weight yarns, and you're wanting to actually do something in those weights and not sort of mix them around, fantasy is a really great option, because you can sort of tie them in. And the neat thing about fantasy, and what works brilliantly in this poncho, is actually having a yarn that has got a little bit of, it's either a print or a hand dyed, or just got a little bit of interest to it. And fantasy's got 2 of those. It's got the Samara and Spellcaster. And the neat thing about this is, if you haven't got anything in stash, you want to start from scratch, we make this nice and easy for you, because each one of these prints is a combination of 4 of the other yarns. So they both have a base in the plain, and then this is the Samara, which is actually all those yarns there. So when you actually look at the striping with the Ratio Poncho and how you can create those stripes, imagine what you can do with all of those, alternating them and playing around with them with that print in there as well. Like, you could actually do some really, really fun stuff. And conversely, it's the same across with the Spellcaster. Look at that. Oh, isn't that fantastic? It's very, very mythical, that color combination, isn't it? Love it. Absolutely love it. So you can actually play around, and if you don't like one of the colors, like if you're not a massive purple fan, you just want a hint, just drop it out and do those. So you can actually do it. Oh, if you're wanting to do something festive and Christmassy, there you go. There's a Christmas poncho for those in the Northern Hemisphere. So that fantasy is brilliant. whether use it on its own or in combination with another yarn. The nice thing about it is with Ratio Poncho, 6mm needle, you can use the fantasy, no problem. You'll actually get a really beautiful, warm, lush, rich poncho. The poncho's perfect for the fantasy yarn being a single roving. Because this is merino and alpaca predominant, it is just utterly divine. So 60% merino this. It's just beautiful. And there could be something special coming out with this. You're going to have to keep your eyes out. Claire's just popped off to the mill actually to see, just to check. But yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. So that's my yarn suggestion if you're still looking. And if you are hearing this and you're thinking, oh, no, it's too late, I won't worry about it. Bollocks, it's too late. It's not too late. I mean, as I said, Jeanette got hers knocked off in such a quick time. This is the beautiful thing. You can actually get one of these, more than one of these ponchos knocked out. You could start at any time and get one finished relatively quickly. And everyone is tracking along really well. Speaking of which, I worked all day yesterday, but I did Saturday. I did actually have a bit of time. Me and the audiobook had a date, and I managed to get some knitting done on mine. So that's how mine is progressing. So I have, at this stage, I'm looking at doing striping all the way through. Now, this is me. I could change my mind. I might do a big block of striping because I do have enough of this green here to be able to do a color block and have this in the middle. The other color potentially that I could do, which I think would really work well, is, and it's actually the one texture in here that I'm loving, that I was a last minute decision to throw in, was that little combo, putting that in there, and I'm really glad I did it. It's really adding a new dimension to it, but I think I probably will stripe it all the way through. Janet, the measurement and the length or the width or what, Maria, it's in the pattern, Janet. If you downloaded it, there are 3 overall lengths which you fold round in half. I'm doing the 160, which is the biggest. The width, I haven't got a tape measure on the width actually. The width is pretty, I'd have to measure them finished actually, Janet. I couldn't tell you what the width is. For you, to be quite honest, it depends, knowing you, it would depend on whether or not you wanted a bigger poncho. I personally like the bigger one, like I like it as quite a big wrap. You may just want to maybe do the next size back, which will take this back by about 20%. So it'll be sort of about there. Now, this goes this way. But that's where we're at with it. Now, the one thing I have done, and I mentioned this the other day, as you can see, I have been pretty good and I've been weaving my ends in as I go. Why am I doing this? You're looking at this going, oh, right, it's very, but I do it because it just means I don't have a rude surprise at the end. But as you can see, it also creates this really lovely, it reinforces the fabric. It's almost like putting reinforcing in up here. And it's it's actually quite nice and firm. So when you go to sew this up, because this will get mattress stitched that way and get sewn up against that edge, it actually gives you a nice firm seam. And actually you will have, because you will have that sort of down that shoulder side, it will give you a really nice seam there. So if you are doing loads of colors like this, I actually recommend cutting and weaving them in at the end as opposed to carrying them up the side, because if you carry that too many, and don't look at my sides here because I accidentally picked one up, Chardonnay might have been involved with that, but that's the beautiful thing with mattress stitch, all of that will melt away and disappear when I sew it up. It will, if you carry them up the side, it just gets, it's like that messy tangle of wires behind the telly, with all those wires going everywhere, and it's all a bit messy. And even if you try and sort of catch them and loop them, it can get a bit messy and meh, basically. So I wouldn't recommend Oh, the length threaded down the length or across. Oh, Delene, bless them. Yeah, it's set by Delene's just said the width is set by the number of stitches. The length is the 120, 140, 160. The width of the stitches, and I'm just trying to remember based off. Yeah, I'd have to get a tape measure, and I don't have one here. Anywho, no, I do it. I weave them in with the grain. So I just literally loop them around, and what I do is I corkscrew around for about 6 stitches, then turn around and come back the other way. So it's actually double through, and so it finishes back at this edge, and then I just snip them off. So that's how I do it. And it gives you that lovely, here we go, that lovely reinforced edge. You have to be careful not to tug it too tightly because then they do this and they get a little bit sort of all jammed up. But no, and what I have to admit though, this little one here, is the one that if I were to do a solid color, I'd be inclined to go there because I know obviously I've got enough to do that, but I am just trying to use stash yarns. So I think that's why it'll be striped all the way through, because then I can use up what I've got and it's all sort of done. And this actually then makes quite a bold color statement. So this is the sort of poncho with it being such a bold color that I would wear if I was wearing just a straight. I've got 2 merino black dresses, for example, that I wear to work all the time. I'd throw this over the top of those, and this would be your statement piece. So that's how you would get around it. The other thing too, though, is, I mean, a lot of these are really, really bold, but they don't have to be really bold. You can actually do them a lot more subtle. And I did see somebody who was doing it with a yarn that was a really, really long print that they had in stash. That's a great way of using a yarn up like that. If you've got a really big, long print type yarn, you could just do it all in one color. But I think too, the other, this poncho just done in one color, double stranded with a whisper fine and whatever the 4 players of your choice, I actually think would look quite amazing, because you would just get this beautiful piece of fabric, but has got that lovely, lovely halo. And the other yarn, actually 2 yarns that you could do that with, that would look amazing for. So if you've gone and bought a garment lot of either of these and you've had it sitting there, and what you've decided to knit it for, you've gone, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. So especially if you've got around 10 or 11 balls floating around, or even up to 12, I actually think the Sockmatician edition would look incredible just as a single shade, if you were just going a single shade. Or even the new Soho, because you get that bloom from the possum coming through. If you've got a whole bunch of the roving, especially when we had it on the $2 sale, that's another one that will work really well in this poncho. Roving would work great in that. And actually on that 6mm needle, it would be quite loose, but you don't really need to worry too much about sort of wear with that, because it's a poncho. It's not creating those friction points. And it doesn't have to be lots of different colors either. It could be just a beautiful statement with a single color and texture, because it has just been, and that's the nice thing with the juxtaposition between the stocking stitch and the garter stitch, is that it will actually allow those 2 elements of the poncho to sort of stand out, and will just give you something that's very chic and contemporary to wear. So, I mean, you are only limited by your imagination. So don't hold yourself back. Now, knit maths in terms of where you're at. Now, the poncho, because as I said, I've done it on a 6mm needle, and the numbers that I've given you have been based on essentially roughly, I think it's a 14 stitch tension thereabout. I did actually measure it off one of them. It's around 14 or 15 stitches. But regardless, if you're knitting it currently with the 6mm needle and how you're doing it, what you can do is actually measure your gauge and see what you're getting on the stocking stitch portion. So then you know that that's where things will be at, right? But you've decided that you want to do something like this bad boy, and the whole reason for this one came about because I had this is Malabrigo Rasta. How many of us have got a skein or two of this floating around, right? I think I actually had a few of these. I had about 3 of them, I think. 3, it might have even been 4 of them, which I'd bought thinking I was going to make a vest. Yeah, it didn't happen. So anyway, I had some of those, but you may have, it could be anything. You could have Malabriga Rasta, you could have some of our super chunkies that we've had in the previous years. Doesn't really matter. That could be your starting point. Whatever your starting point might be. With this, I knitted this on a really, really big needle, and I'm pretty certain it was a 15 millimeter. I could be wrong. Anywho, it might have been 15 millimeter actually. So what you do though, regardless, if you're wanting to upsize your needle size, so you've got, say for argument's sake, you've got a chunky and you want to throw a mohair double stranded on there and you get this big, lovely sort of yarn. All you need to do is do a little swatch first. Once you've got your gauge, you just need to do a percentage difference between the gauge that you start with that the pattern's written in, so that's a 6 millimeter needle and whatever yarn you choose to use, and the gauge of your swatch of what you would like to use. You take that percentage difference and then you apply that percentage difference against what I've got written in the pattern. So for the bigger size, for example, I've got cast on 102 stitches. If your percentage difference is 20%, well, then you just take off 20% of 102. So that's about 82, right? Basically 80, thereabouts. And then your ratio, the ratio between, that's why it's called ratio, people. The ratio between the width of your poncho is it's 2/3 stocking stitch, 1/3 garter stitch. So then you just take the number of stitches that you've got cast on and you divide that 2/3, 1/3, and that's where your wrap and turn point is going to be. See where I'm going here? And then when it comes to, and this one isn't actually, this one's more, this one, this is not the ratio in the pattern, but the way I've also written it is with this, the width, the length particularly, is theoretically it should be 1/3, 2/3 across here, but it could be 50-50 depending on how long you want to make it. But then you just work out the length that you've got, how long you want. I mean, it's entirely up to you. I mean, this collar, I wanted this collar exceptionally large. So I have gone for a much wider neck in this. But you are the boss of your own knitting. Okay, so once you get that swath of fabric, you just need to take that swath of fabric, get some pins out and decide where it is that you want, how much you want that shoulder seam. Then once you've got your shoulder seam, you can then mark out for your neckline. Then you can decide how you want to do your neckline. You might want to actually do an open neckline like we've got on the Solomon poncho. And that's picking up the stitches and just doing ribbing and then sewing it up and then allowing that open ribbed collar to sit out. That would be a really nice touch. Or you could do that actually just in straight garter stitch actually as an open collar. There's an idea. And you can even follow it with not even straight garter stitch all the way around, but doing the garter stitch wrap and turn as well. So then you can actually have different striping along there. Ooh, there's a thought. You're only limited by your own imagination. I've given you the template. You just need to run with it. It's as simple as that. So don't forget, we have got prizes. So I've got the best use of stash yarns, the stash or skeins yarns, the best use of colour, and the best use of texture. So you make sure you do a bit of a deep dive into the stash and see what you've got. Ooh, there we go. Patricia's saying the Dip Dye Deep Harbour main colour with Outlaw Nouveau Polworth Eastlake, stripe with the dark blue teal. Yep, absolutely. And in fact, I think Dark Harbour is one of the ones I've got in there. Yeah, that would be amazing. So amazing. So you just have to play around with it and don't be afraid. Do not limit yourself on what it is that you can do with or without colour. So you could go absolutely hog wild and do a whole heap. I mean, I've got about 6 yarns in that one. Oopsie, I've got a similar amount actually in that green one, but they're all stranded together. Whereas the Albertine poncho is quite straightforward, and so is the one that I'm doing here. So oh, Muriel, have you drawn last month's prize yet? Yes, I have, Muriel. That went to Nick Bartle, was the winner of last month's prize. So he, if you go to the Speakeasy, I did actually pop it on the tile for last month. That was done. So that's our winner there. So he has won that. And actually, you've brought up a good point. If you're not doing the knit along, I'm still doing the standard Skeinz Speakeasy monthly price draw. So that doesn't change. So you can still do that. The theme is over. I think it's live, work, create is the theme. So you can just go over and still enter your work in progress, whatever you, and there's some really good work going on and some very good finished objects, I must say, that's happening right now. So yeah, definitely get that done and do that too. All right, I'm going to head off and go and see what I can dream up for you for the rest of the week, and I will see you back here on Thursday. Hopefully when I see you, I'll have quite a bit more progress done on that. But until then, you have a great rest of week, and I'll see you then. Bye.